The crowd roared as the elders dragged Lisa across the cobblestones toward the fountain at the center of the courtyard. Her knees scraped against the rough stone, blood seeping through her torn dress, but she refused to cry out. The entire vampire clan had assembled for this, her execution, and the twilight sky bore witness to her humiliation. Elder Matthias stood at the fountain's edge, his silver robes catching the dying light. "Bring the abomination forward." 2 guards yanked Lisa upright. Her wrists burned where the blessed rope bit into her skin, but it was nothing compared to the searing shame of being displayed like this before everyone she'd served for the past 3 years. She'd cleaned their halls, mended their clothes, kept their secrets. And this was how they repaid her loyalty. "I didn't do anything wrong," Lisa said, her voice breaking. "Please, I'm human. I've only ever served the clan faithfully." "Silence!" Elder Matthias spat. "We found vampire blood in your quarters. You've been drinking it, trying to turn yourself into one of us. You're an insult to our kind, a mockery of our sacred transformation." The accusation hung in the air like poison. Lisa's heart hammered against her ribs. The vial they'd found wasn't what they thought. It had been a medicine, given to her by the clan's healer to treat her chronic illness. But no one had listened when she tried to explain. No one cared about the truth when they'd already decided she was guilty. "The punishment for a human attempting to steal our immortality is death by holy water," Elder Matthias continued, his voice carrying across the silent courtyard. "Let her flesh burn as a warning to any other servants who dream of rising above their station." Lisa's stomach dropped. Holy water. She'd seen what it did to vampires. The smoke, the screams, the way their skin melted like candle wax. She was human, yes, but the rope binding her wrists was blessed, and it burned. What if the elders were wrong about her? What if there was something in her blood, something she didn't understand? "Please, I have a younger brother who depends on me. He's only 12. He'll have nowhere to go, no one to care for him. I'm begging you." "Your brother is no concern of ours," Elder Matthias said. "He can beg in the streets or die in them. Either way, you won't be there to see it." The guards hauled her to the fountain's lip. The water inside glowed with an ethereal blue light, blessed by the high priests of 7 different faiths. It had taken months to prepare, months of prayer and ritual to create something pure enough to kill the undead. Lisa could smell it from here, sharp and clean, like lightning and snow. Her mind raced. If she was human, truly human, the water shouldn't hurt her. But the rope burned. The threshold of vampire halls had made her dizzy. And sometimes, late at night, she could swear she heard whispers in her blood, ancient voices calling her name. "Wait, what if you're wrong? What if I'm not what you think I am?" "Then you'll die anyway," Elder Matthias said. "But at least we'll know for certain." They lifted her over the fountain's edge. Lisa struggled, her feet kicking empty air, but the guards were too strong. The crowd pressed closer, hungry for the spectacle. She caught glimpses of faces she recognized. The cook who'd taught her to make blood pastries, the stable master who'd let her sleep in the warm hay during winter, the young vampire who'd smiled at her in the corridors. None of them spoke up. None of them moved to help. "By the authority of the Bloodstone clan and the sacred laws of our kind, I sentence this human to purification by holy water. May her death serve as a reminder that mortals exist to serve, not to aspire." Elder Matthias nodded to the guards. They released her. Lisa plunged into the fountain. The cold hit her like a physical blow. The holy water closed over her head, and for a heartbeat, there was nothing but freezing darkness. Then, the burning started. It seared through her skin, into her muscles, down to her very bones. Lisa opened her mouth to scream, and water rushed in, tasting of metal and starlight and something older than memory. The pain was everywhere at once, her chest, her arms, her face, fire and ice warring inside her body. She thrashed, lungs burning, vision going white. But then, something shifted. The pain didn't stop exactly. It transformed. The burning sensation that had felt like destruction began to feel like absorption. Like her body was drinking the holy water, pulling it in through every pore, making it part of herself. The agony crystallized into something else. Power. Raw, untamed, ancient power flooding through veins she hadn't known existed. Lisa's eyes snapped open underwater. The blessed fountain glowed brighter, the blue light intensifying until it was nearly white, and she could feel it flowing into her, reshaping her from the inside out. Her heart, which had been racing with terror, began to slow, not stopping, changing rhythm. Each beat sent waves of energy through her body, and with each wave, she felt stronger. She wasn't dying. She was becoming. The water around her started to churn. Bubbles rose to the surface as the glow intensified, bright enough now that the crowd had to shield their eyes. Lisa felt herself rising, lifted by currents that responded to her will. And when her head broke the surface, she drew in a breath that tasted like lightning. The courtyard had gone silent. Water streamed from Lisa's hair, from her dress, from her skin, but she wasn't burned. There were no marks, no blisters, no smoke. Instead, her skin seemed to shimmer with an inner light, as if the holy water had settled beneath her flesh and decided to stay there. She looked down at her hands and saw them glowing faintly, the blessed rope that had bound her wrists now lying severed in the fountain, dissolved by the water that had somehow spared her. Impossible, Elder Matthias breathed. His face had gone the color of old parchment. No one survives the holy water. No one. Lisa pulled herself over the fountain's edge, water cascading from her in rivers of light. Her legs felt stronger than they ever had. Her whole body hummed with energy, with purpose, with something that had been sleeping inside her all this time, waiting for this exact moment to wake. What am I? The crowd backed away from her. Some of the vampires looked terrified, others fascinated, but none of them approached. Lisa stood alone in the center of the courtyard, dripping holy water onto stones that had never known its touch, and felt the weight of hundreds of eyes on her. Transformation. "Seize her!" Elder Matthias shouted. "She's dangerous! She's an aberration! Kill her before she—" "Enough!" The voice cut through the chaos like a blade through silk. It came from the far end of the courtyard, from the shadows beneath the great arch that led to the clan's inner sanctum. The crowd parted immediately, bodies pressing against walls and pillars to clear a path, and Lisa saw him for the first time. Harrison. She'd heard his name whispered in corridors, spoken with reverence and fear. The vampire lord of the Northern Territories, ancient beyond measure, powerful enough that even the elders deferred to him. He visited the Bloodstone clan rarely, preferring his own stronghold in the mountains, but when he came, the entire world seemed to hold its breath. He walked with the fluid grace of a predator, tall and broad-shouldered, dressed in black that made him look like a piece of the night itself given form. His hair was dark, his features sharp, and his eyes, those eyes were the color of fresh blood, bright and piercing and utterly focused on Lisa. "What have you done, Matthias?" The elder's composure cracked. "My Lord Harrison, we were executing a human who attempted to steal our immortality. She had vampire blood in her possession. She absorbed the holy water." It wasn't a question. Harrison continued walking toward the fountain, his gaze never leaving Lisa. She felt pinned by that stare, unable to move, unable to breathe. He circled her slowly, studying her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. "Do you know what this means?" Harrison stopped in front of her, close enough that she could feel the chill that radiated from his undead body. "Holy water destroys vampires. It's our greatest weakness, the one thing we cannot adapt to, cannot survive. And you didn't just survive. You absorbed it. You're glowing with it." "I don't understand. I'm human. I've always been human." "No," Harrison said. "You were never just human. You've been something else all along, sleeping, waiting. And these fools nearly destroyed the most precious thing they'd ever touched." He turned to Elder Matthias, and the temperature in the courtyard seemed to drop 10 degrees. "You tried to execute her without consulting me. You, who have sworn fealty to my house, who rule this clan by my grace alone." "My lord, we didn't know. We couldn't have guessed." "You should have known the moment you found her. The moment you saw what she was carrying." Harrison's voice grew quieter, which somehow made it more terrifying. "A human servant with vampire blood in her quarters. Did it never occur to you that someone gave it to her? That she might be under protection?" Lisa's head spun. Protection? No one had protected her. No one had cared when the guards dragged her from her room, when they threw her in the holding cell, when they sentenced her to death in a trial that lasted less than 10 minutes. That blood was mine. The courtyard erupted in gasps and whispers. Lisa stared at Harrison, her glowing hands clenching into fists. "What? You gave me that vial? I thought it was medicine from the healer." "It was medicine. Vampire blood can cure mortal illnesses, for a time. Your brother told me you were dying." Harrison's expression softened almost imperceptibly. "He came to me 3 months ago, begging for help. He said his sister had given up everything to care for him, that she worked herself to exhaustion every day, that she was wasting away. So I gave him that vial and told him to have you drink a few drops each night." The memory hit Lisa like a physical blow. James, her sweet, desperate little brother, who'd been so insistent that she'd take the tonic he'd found. She'd thought he'd stolen it from the healer's supplies. She'd never imagined he'd gone to a vampire lord. "He said it was from the healer. He lied to me." "He knew you'd refuse if you knew the truth. And he was right, wasn't he?" Harrison reached out, his cold fingers brushing the air near her face but not quite touching her glowing skin. "But he didn't know what you truly are. Neither did I until now." "What am I? Please, I need to understand what's happening to me." "You're a daywalker." The word echoed through the courtyard. Lisa had heard it before, in old stories the clan's historians told. legends of beings born once in 1,000 years. Daywalkers were said to be children of mixed blood, part human, part vampire. But instead of being weaker than both, they were stronger. They could exist in sunlight without burning. They could touch holy objects without pain. And according to the legends, they could absorb the very things that killed vampires and turn those weapons into strengths. That's impossible. My mother was human. My father was human. I grew up in a village 50 miles from here, living a normal life until... Until when? Lisa's voice faltered. She'd been about to say, until my parents died, but the memory felt suddenly wrong, like a painting that didn't quite match reality. Her parents had died when she was 16, both of them in a single night, and she'd never questioned it. Everyone said it was a fever, a sickness that came on fast and took them before dawn. But now, standing in a courtyard glowing with holy water, Lisa felt that certainty crumble. Until my parents died. But that was normal, wasn't it? People die from fever. Not both on the same night. Not without anyone else in the village falling ill. Harrison's red eyes held hers. Someone murdered them. Someone who knew what you were and wanted to make sure you never discovered your heritage. The courtyard spun. Lisa's legs threatened to give out, but the holy water thrumming through her veins kept her upright, kept her burning with questions that suddenly demanded answers. If her parents were murdered, if she wasn't fully human, if she'd spent her whole life not knowing what she truly was, who would do that? Harrison glanced at Elder Matthias, and the look that passed between them made Lisa's blood run cold. The elder paled, his hands clenching at his sides. You cannot possibly think. I would never. You were in charge of the northern villages 16 years ago. You oversaw all vampire activity in that region. Harrison's voice carried the weight of centuries. And you've always been vocal about your hatred of mixed bloods, haven't you? You've argued in every council meeting that daywalkers are abominations, that they should be destroyed the moment they're identified. Because they are! They're neither human nor vampire. They belong to no world. They belong to mine. The words hit like thunder. Harrison moved faster than Lisa's eyes could track, suddenly standing between her and the elders, his body a wall of protective fury. This woman is under my protection. She has been under my protection since the moment I gave her my blood, and you tried to kill her. Elder Matthias drew himself up, trying to regain his authority. My lord, with respect, she's just a servant, a girl who's cleaned our halls and washed our linens. Even if she is a daywalker, that doesn't change what she is, Harrison said, his voice dropping to a lethal whisper. Is the last of her kind. Do you understand what that means? Daywalkers are born when a turned vampire's humanity resurfaces, when love creates something that transcends death itself. Her parents weren't both human, Matthias. One of them was turned, but their love was so strong that it fought past the transformation, and they created a child who carries both mortal and immortal blood in perfect balance. Lisa's chest tightened. One of my parents was a vampire? Your mother. She was turned against her will when she was very young, but she never lost her humanity. She met your father, fell in love, and somehow, miraculously, she conceived. You shouldn't exist, but you do. You're proof that our kind can still feel, still love, still create life instead of just taking it. Tears burned Lisa's eyes, but she blinked them back. The holy water inside her pulsed in response to her emotions, warming her from within. She'd spent so many nights wondering why she'd always felt different, why she never quite fit anywhere. Why? The other villagers looked at her with suspicion even before her parents died. Now she knew. She never told me. Why didn't she tell me? Because she was protecting you. If the clans found out about you, they would have killed you immediately. Daywalkers threaten everything vampires believe about themselves, their superiority, their separation from humanity, their eternal darkness. Harrison turned back to Elder Matthias. So you killed them. You found out what they'd created and you murdered them to eliminate the evidence. No! Yes, I knew about the child, but I sent others to handle it. I thought they'd killed her along with the parents. The confession hung in the air like a death sentence. The courtyard exploded with noise. Vampires shouted, some in agreement with the elder, others in horror at what he'd admitted. Lisa's vision went red. The holy water inside her responded to her rage, surging through her veins with scalding heat. Her parents. This man had ordered their deaths, had stolen them from her, had left her and James orphaned and alone, struggling to survive, all because she was something he feared. You killed them. Power rippled out from Lisa in visible waves. The glow beneath her skin intensified until she blazed like a star, and the vampires nearest her stumbled backward, shielding their eyes. She took a step toward Elder Matthias, and another, and the stones beneath her feet cracked with each footfall. Stay back! Guards, stop her! 3 vampire guards rushed forward, but they slowed as they approached her, their undead bodies recoiling from the holy energy radiating off her skin. One of them managed to grab her arm, and he screamed as his flesh sizzled where he touched her. He jerked away, his hands smoking, and collapsed to his knees. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. Don't apologize, Harrison said from behind her. You're learning. Your body is filled with holy water now. You've become a weapon against our kind, but you can control it. Focus. Pull the energy back inside yourself. Lisa closed her eyes and tried to breathe, tried to calm the inferno raging through her. It was like trying to contain an ocean in a teacup. The power wanted to burst free, wanted to burn away every vampire in the courtyard, wanted revenge for 16 years of lies and loss. But Harrison's voice anchored her, steady and certain, and slowly, so slowly, she pulled the light back beneath her skin until she was only glowing faintly instead of blazing. I can't hold it forever. You won't have to. You'll learn to live with it, to use it when needed and quiet it when you don't. But right now, we need to address the matter at hand. Harrison moved to stand beside her, his presence like a cold shadow against her burning light. Elder Matthias has confessed to murdering 2 members of this clan and attempting to murder a 3rd. By vampire law, what is the punishment? A woman stepped forward from the crowd. Elder Cordelia, Lisa recognized, the only female on the council. Death by sunrise. But my Lord Harrison, if she truly is a daywalker, then the elders have the right to call for her examination. We need to determine... No, you need to determine nothing. She is mine. The words reverberated through the courtyard. Harrison's red eyes swept across the assembled vampires, challenging anyone to contradict him. By the ancient laws of our kind, I claim Lisa as my blood consort. She is under my eternal protection, bound to my house, and anyone who harms her answers to me directly. Is that clear?" Blood consort. Lisa's heart hammered. She'd heard the term before. It meant more than just protection. It meant partnership, meant power, meant standing at the right hand of a vampire lord as his equal. It meant she would no longer be a servant, no longer be prey. She would be one of the most powerful beings in the vampire world. But it also meant belonging to Harrison in a way that transcended simple ownership. Blood consorts were chosen because of an unbreakable connection, a bond that went soul deep. Lisa looked at him, at this ancient creature who just upended her entire existence, and felt something click into place inside her chest. The holy water recognized him somehow, reached toward him even though it should have repelled all vampires. He was cold darkness, and she was burning light, and together they created something impossible. "I don't understand. Why would you claim me? You don't even know me." "I've known you for 3 months. Ever since your brother came to me, I've been watching you. I've seen how you care for him even when you're exhausted, how you show kindness to the other servants even when the vampires treat you like dirt, how you're stronger than you believe, braver than you know." He turned to face her fully, his red eyes holding hers. "And I gave you my blood, which means I'm already bound to you whether we acknowledge it or not. The moment you drank it, you became part of me." Lisa's breath caught. The medicine James had given her. She'd been drinking Harrison's blood for months. That's why she'd started feeling stronger, why her illness had faded, why she sometimes heard whispers in her mind that weren't her own thoughts. She'd been connected to him all this time without realizing it. "But I didn't choose this. I didn't know what I was drinking." "I know. And if you refuse me now, I'll honor that choice. I'll still protect you from the elders, still help you discover your abilities, still make sure your brother is safe. But you'll be free to leave, to make your own path." Harrison's expression softened in a way that made him look almost human. "I'm asking you to stay. Not because you owe me, not because I claimed you in front of witnesses, but because I think we were meant to find each other." The courtyard held its breath. Every vampire watched them, waiting to see what the glowing woman would say to the vampire lord who'd just offered her the world. Lisa looked down at her hands, still faintly luminous with holy water. She thought of James, alone and terrified somewhere in the servants' quarters, probably convinced she was dead. She thought of her parents, murdered for loving each other, for creating something beautiful in a world that called it abomination. She thought of all the years she'd spent invisible, powerless, surviving but never truly living. "I want answers first. About my parents, about what I am, about everything I should have known my whole life." "You'll have them. All of them. And I want Elder Matthias punished. I want everyone who was involved in my parents' deaths to face justice. They will. I swear it on my blood. And I want James protected. No matter what happens, no matter what I become, he stays safe. He'll be safer than he's ever been. I'll adopt him into my house, give him my name, make sure he wants for nothing." Lisa nodded slowly. The holy water inside her had calmed now, settling into a steady warmth that felt less like a weapon and more like a shield. She took a step closer to Harrison, close enough that the chill of his undead body pressed against the heat radiating from hers. They created steam where they almost touched, visible proof of how different they were, how impossible their connection should be. Then I accept. I'll be your blood consort. Harrison's eyes flared brighter red. He reached out and took her glowing hand in his cold one, and Lisa gasped as power surged between them, her light and his darkness. Recognizing each other, joining together, creating something entirely new. The bond snapped into place like a key turning in a lock, and suddenly she could feel him inside her mind, his thoughts brushing against hers, his presence wrapping around her consciousness like a protective embrace. You have no idea what you've just given me. Before Lisa could respond, Harrison pulled her closer and lowered his head to her neck. His lips brushed against her throat, cold as winter, and she felt his fangs extend. Wait, are you? Trust me. He bit down. The pain lasted only a second before it transformed into something else entirely. Lisa felt Harrison drinking her blood, felt the holy water flowing into him through her veins, and instead of weakening her, it seemed to strengthen them both. The bond between them crystallized, becoming unbreakable, eternal. She could feel everything he felt, his hunger, his devotion, his centuries of loneliness, finally ending, and it overwhelmed her in the best possible way. When Harrison pulled back, his lips were stained with blood that glowed faintly blue. He licked them clean, his expression dazed. Your blood tastes like sunlight, like salvation. Lisa touched her neck where he'd bitten her. The wounds had already closed, healed by the holy water running through her system, but she could feel the mark he'd left, invisible but permanent, a claim that went deeper than skin. I can feel you. In my mind. Is that normal? Nothing about you is normal, but yes, blood consorts share a mental link. You'll always know where I am, what I'm feeling, and I'll always know if you're in danger. He turned to address the crowd again, his voice ringing with authority. As of this moment, Lisa is no longer a servant of the Bloodstone clan. She is the blood consort of the Northern Territories, equal in rank to myself, and her word carries the same weight as mine. Anyone who disrespects her disrespects me. Is that understood? A chorus of, "Yes, my lord," echoed through the courtyard. Good. Now, we have a sentence to carry out. Elder Matthias, you have until dawn to settle your affairs. The elder collapsed to his knees. Please, my lord, I was only trying to protect our kind. The Daywalker is dangerous. She could destroy us all. The only danger here is fear, and you've let yours turn you into a murderer. Harrison looked at the other elders. Take him to the tower. He'll watch the sunrise from there. 4 guards moved forward to seize Elder Matthias. He struggled and screamed, but they dragged him away, his cries echoing off the stone walls until they faded into silence. Lisa watched him go and felt nothing but grim satisfaction. Justice. Finally, after 16 years, her parents would have justice. What happens now? Now we rebuild. The Bloodstone clan needs new leadership that understands the world is changing. I'm appointing Elder Cordelia as head of this clan, but you and I will oversee the transition. Harrison gestured to the fountain, still glowing with holy water. And we need to understand what you can do. The holy water didn't just spare you, It transformed you. You're the first daywalker to ever absorb it. That makes you unique even among unique beings. Lisa looked at the fountain, at the water that had been meant to kill her and instead had awakened something extraordinary. She reached out her hand and the water responded, rising from the basin in a glowing stream that wrapped around her fingers like liquid light. She could control it, shape it, use it. I can feel every drop. It's part of me now. You've become a weapon against everything that threatens humanity. Vampires, dark creatures, demons, none of them can touch you without burning. And with your blood bond to me, you've given me immunity as well. Harrison held out his hand, and Lisa placed hers in it. Nothing burned. Nothing hurt. Her holy water recognized him as hers and allowed the contact. We're going to change everything. Over the following weeks, Lisa learned what it meant to be a daywalker and a blood consort. Harrison brought scholars from across the territories to study her abilities, but always with her consent, always treating her as an equal partner rather than a curiosity. She learned to control the holy water flowing through her veins, to release it when needed and contain it when not. She discovered she could walk in sunlight without burning, could stand in full daylight and feel nothing but warmth, while Harrison had to retreat to the shadows unless he was holding her hand, protected by her presence. James was overwhelmed when Lisa brought him to Harrison's mountain stronghold. The 12-year-old boy couldn't believe his sister had gone from servant to blood consort in a single night. But Harrison welcomed him with genuine warmth, giving him his own suite of rooms and enrolling him with tutors who would teach him everything he'd missed growing up poor and orphaned. "You're glowing again," James said one afternoon as they walked through the stronghold's gardens. The sun shone overhead, bright and warm, and Lisa basked in it while Harrison watched from a covered colonnade. "I'm always glowing a little now. Harrison says it's because the holy water never stops flowing through me. I've become like a living blessing." "Does it hurt?" "No. It feels right. Like I'm finally who I was always supposed to be." Lisa glanced over at Harrison, who smiled at her from the shadows. Even from this distance, she could feel him through their bond, his satisfaction, his pride, his deep and growing affection for her. "I never thought I'd have this. Power, family, purpose. I never thought I'd have my sister back. When they took you away, I was so scared." James's voice cracked. "I thought I'd failed you. That the blood I gave you hadn't worked, that you died anyway." Lisa pulled her brother into a fierce hug. "You saved me. If you hadn't given me Harrison's blood, I would have died from my illness long before the elders ever threw me into that fountain. You bought me time, and that time changed everything." They stood together in the garden, and Lisa felt a completeness she'd never known before. Her parents were avenged. Elder Matthias had burned at dawn, screaming until the sun reduced him to ash. The other conspirators had been exiled, stripped of their positions and cast out of clan territories. The Bloodstone clan was transforming under Elder Cordelia's more progressive leadership, and Harrison was using Lisa's example to push for change across all the vampire territories. But more than that, Lisa had found where she belonged. Not as a servant, not as an outsider, but as something new entirely. A bridge between darkness and light, between mortality and immortality, between fear and hope. "Lisa, come here for a moment!" Harrison's voice pulled her from her thoughts. She kissed James's forehead and told him to go find his tutor, then walked back to the colonnade. As soon as she stepped into the shade, Harrison pulled her close, his cold body pressing against her warmth. They created steam again, visible proof of their impossible union. Missing me already? I was only in the garden for an hour. Every hour without you feels longer than it should. His expression grew more serious. I have something for you. He held out a small box. Lisa opened it to find a ring inside, black metal set with a stone that glowed blue, filled with what looked like liquid light. Is that? Holy water, crystallized and set in black diamond. I had it made from the fountain where you transformed. It's one of a kind, just like you. Harrison took the ring and slipped it onto her finger. This is more than just a symbol. It's a declaration. I'm not just claiming you as my consort. I'm asking you to be my eternal companion, to stand beside me not just in this life, but in all the centuries to come. Lisa stared at the ring, at the way it glowed against her skin. Marriage. He was asking her to marry him, to bind herself to him not just through blood, but through choice, through love, through the ancient promises that transcended even death. We've only known each other a few months. I've existed for 8 centuries. I've met thousands of beings, loved a few, lost them all. But I've never felt this certainty. You're my balance, Lisa. Light to my darkness, warmth to my cold, life to my death. Harrison cupped her face in his hands. I love you. Not because you're useful, not because you're unique, but because you're you. Kind and brave and fierce and exactly what I've been searching for without knowing it. Tears streamed down Lisa's face, evaporating into steam the moment they touched her glowing skin. She'd spent so long believing she was nothing, that she existed only to serve and survive and endure. But Harrison saw her, truly saw her, and loved what he found. I love you too. I think I started loving you the moment you stood between me and the elders, when you protected me even though you barely knew what I was. Is that a yes? Yes. Yes, I'll marry you. I'll be your eternal companion, your partner, your equal. Lisa rose on her toes and kissed him, and despite the way her heat met his cold, despite how impossible they should be, the kiss felt perfect, complete, right. When they pulled apart, Harrison was smiling, a rare, genuine smile that transformed his ancient face into something almost boyish. We'll have the ceremony at the next full moon. Every vampire clan will attend, and they'll all witness what happens when darkness and light choose each other instead of fighting. James will lose his mind. He's going to want to plan the whole thing. Let him. He deserves joy after everything he's survived. Harrison pulled her back into his arms, content to stand there in the shadows while afternoon sunlight painted the garden gold beyond the colonnade. Have you thought about what comes next, after the wedding? I want to find others like me. If I exist, there might be more daywalkers out there, hiding, not knowing what they are. I want to help them discover their power before someone like Elder Matthias finds them first. That's dangerous work. Good. I'm dangerous now. I think it's time vampires remembered that humans aren't just food or servants. We're survivors. We're fighters. And some of us are so much more than either side ever imagined. Harrison laughed, a sound like distant thunder. You're going to reshape our world. We're going to reshape it, together. The full moon ceremony took place in Harrison's stronghold. in a great hall that had stood empty for centuries but now blazed with light from thousands of candles. Lisa wore white. She'd insisted on it, wanting to honor her human heritage even as she claimed her vampire future. And the dress glowed from the holy water running through her veins, making her look like a living flame. James walked her down the aisle, trying not to cry and failing spectacularly. Elder Cordelia officiated, her voice carrying the weight of ancient ritual as she bound Lisa and Harrison together with words that predated written language. The assembled vampires watched in awed silence as their lord married a daywalker, as darkness and light joined hands and promised forever to each other. When Harrison bit her neck to seal their bond, his second bite in the exact same spot deepening the mark, Lisa bit him back, her human teeth somehow breaking his undead skin. She drank his blood and felt it mixing with the holy water inside her, felt their bond becoming unbreakable in every sense. They were one creature now in two bodies, balanced and eternal and impossible. The celebration lasted 3 days. Vampires from every territory came to witness the couple who embodied change itself, and many of them pledged their support for Harrison's reforms. Lisa danced in the sunlight streaming through the hall's eastern windows, while Harrison watched from the shadows, their bond humming with shared joy. She met dozens of vampires who were curious about her rather than afraid, who asked questions instead of reaching for weapons, who wanted to understand rather than destroy. On the third night, as the last guests departed, Lisa found herself alone with Harrison in their private chambers. The room was half in shadow and half in light, perfectly balanced like everything else in their life together. She stood at the window, watching the stars emerge, feeling the steady pulse of their blood bond thrumming through her veins. I never imagined I could have this. Happiness, peace, love. Harrison came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. Neither did I. For centuries, I thought I was meant to be alone. Do you think there are others? Other vampires and daywalkers who could find what we have? I think you're going to make sure of it. My brilliant, fierce, glowing wife. He kissed her neck, right over the mark that would never fade. You're going to change everything, one life at a time. And I'll be here, supporting you, protecting you, loving you, for all the centuries we have together. Lisa turned in his arms and looked up at him, this ancient being who'd chosen her above all others. Forever. That's what we have now. Forever to hunt down the people who hurt daywalkers like me. Forever to build a world where humans and vampires don't have to fear each other. Forever to prove that love can transcend death, darkness, everything. Forever, Harrison agreed, and kissed her as the stars wheeled overhead and the moon blessed their union with silver light. In the months that followed, Lisa became exactly what she'd promised, a hunter of those who preyed on the innocent, a protector of daywalkers who didn't yet know their power, a bridge between species that had been enemies for millennia. She walked in sunlight with Harrison's hand in hers, his immunity to the sun lasting as long as they touched. She absorbed holy objects when they found them, turning weapons meant to destroy vampires into sources of strength instead. And she was happy, truly, deeply happy in a way she never thought possible back when she was just a servant girl, cleaning floors and praying she'd live another day. One evening, as she and Harrison stood on the balcony of their stronghold, watching the sunset paint the mountains gold and crimson, Lisa felt a flutter inside her that had nothing to do with holy water. She placed her hand over her abdomen, her eyes widening. Harrison, I think I'm pregnant. He stared at her, his red eyes going impossibly wide. That's impossible. Vampires can't have children. We're dead. We don't create life. But I'm not fully vampire. And you've been drinking my holy water-infused blood for months now. Maybe we've created something new again. Something impossible. Harrison dropped to his knees and pressed his ear against her stomach, listening with senses far sharper than human. When he looked up at her, his face was transformed with wonder. I can hear it. A heartbeat, strong and steady and warm. Lisa, you're carrying life inside you. Our child. Tears streamed down both their faces as they held each other on the balcony, the sunset painting them in shades of gold. A daywalker and a vampire lord, creating the next impossible thing. A child born of holy light and ancient darkness. A bridge between worlds. A promise that love could overcome anything. We're going to have a family, Lisa whispered, her hand covering Harrison's where it rested on her stomach. A real family. Together. Together, Harrison agreed, and kissed her as the last light faded from the sky and the first stars emerged to witness their miracle. And somewhere in the shadows, James whooped with joy when he heard the news, already planning to be the best uncle in the history of both species. The daywalker who'd absorbed holy water, who'd survived execution and found love in the darkness, was building a new world, one impossible moment at a time. Did you like this story? Big shout out to our viewers from Arkansas, London, Los Angeles, California, Oklahoma, San Jose, California, Indianapolis, Las Vegas, Denton, Texas, and more. Thank you all so much for your support. Mwah. To our growing viewers, if you want a part 2, comment part 2 and which state you're watching from so I can give you a shout out in the next video. Don't forget to subscribe so you can stay updated on our next uploads. Thanks for watching!